What's up, everybody? I hope all is well with everyone. I am leaving work, feeling great. Pardon me for looking a little wind whipped, but my hair was cute when I came in this morning. But the Texas heat don't agree with my locks. It don't agree with my quap. So y'all have to forgive me. I don't ever remember that it gets that dark driving through this parking lot. We'll be out in just a second. Anyway, since y'all can hear me, you might not be able to see me all that well. I just wanted to kind of check in. I did a video earlier today, Let's Talk About, and the topic was communication. And I really like how the video came out. It was just really some things that have been on my mind, and just thinking about, sometimes we say stuff and we just automatically assume that the other person has a full understanding. Okay, I don't know what happened, but for some reason it just stopped recording. Anyway, what I was saying was, we're the only ones in our head, and it can't be assumed that the other half of the conversation that's being had with a live person is also being understood based on information that you have in your mind. And it's so easy to make that, not necessarily make that assumption, but to take for granted that you're dealing with another person that may not think the way you think, and their communication skills may not be the same as yours. Their experience with learning how to effectively communicate may not be the same as yours. And we're all just very different. Our personalities are different, our upbringing is different, and communication, the very beginning phases of communication, is coming into a situation where you have to communicate with somebody else, having an open mind. Because if your mind is automatically tuned to, they should understand where I'm coming from, or they know me well enough to know that, and I'm guilty of doing that too, is that, well, anybody who knows me know. And that, even with that being the case, you can't assume that people understand what's going on in your head. And then the other thing that affects how a person communicates is the amount of stress that they're dealing with, or the type of stress. If a person is dealing with a large amount of stress, and the type of stress is something that they've never experienced before, or even if it's a small amount of stress and the stress is familiar, but you're just at a point where you mentally and emotionally cannot manage that stress, that impacts how you communicate as well. So that's the reason I thought it was necessary to do the Let's Talk About, because communication is huge. And that's one of the things that I learned when I was in school, because you have a choice of doing your elective classes, and one of the things that I chose to do for the electives at the end of my degree, since I had already satisfied my degree plan, both my major and my minor, and I had a bunch of electives that I had credits I had to fulfill. So, and they weren't necessarily elective, they were just classes I had to take because I had to have so many credits to get my degree. And because of the fact that I, have a nonprofit organization and I have my business, one of the things that I'm guilty of is, thinking that I'm communicating effectively, and I'm not. And it's not intentionally, it's just that I learned that I'm not communicating effectively based on how people respond to the things that I say. Because you have your verbal communication, But you also have your nonverbal communication, which is translated through your facial expressions, your body language, and things like that. So I decided to go ahead and use the opportunity for me to, needing to take these classes, to take communication classes. And some of them were related to corporate America. Some of the classes were related to communication, like as far as, how you communicate when you're writing. And then some of the communication classes were just basic communication skills, whether you're dealing with personal relationships, business relationships, or what have you. And I found, especially in this age of social media, I found those classes to be very beneficial because they make you realize that you don't always think about everything that goes into having a dialogue or an interaction with someone. So I'll probably do like another part to the let's talk about communication. It just kind of depends on what I can come up with. I don't just want to throw something out there. I definitely wanted to start the conversation, but if I do a part 2 or multiple parts, I don't want to just throw information out there. I want to make sure that it's definitely something that's beneficial, is something that you can use, whether it's at work or in your intimate relationship or with your children, if you're a parent, things like that. So I had a good day. Today was very peaceful. It was definitely very busy. I am transitioning into some new responsibilities as our company goes, prepares to go electronic. This is a very detailed, it's a very lengthy, and it's a very time-consuming process, because you're talking about taking, and this is also where communication comes in, because you're talking about taking data that you are used to viewing, manipulating, and just overall handling in one way, and not only learning how to do those same tasks a different way, but you're having to learn how to do those tasks from an electronic standpoint, with the hope that the software will do what it needs to do. Because in any company, when you take a step like this, the objective is that the software will take on more responsibility for processing the information that's put into it, and the end user, or the person that's responsible for interacting with the software, will do less of some of the thinking about the information that you're using, and more of retrieving that information so that it can be analyzed and reviewed. And so I've been through this, not this type, but I've been through a similar experience at another company. And the fascinating thing, because I'm a tech head, so the fascinating thing for me is watching all the moving parts that were once on paper transition into the digital world, and how all of that kind of unfolds, and how it comes across. Because it can be very exciting for people who love this type of experience, but it can be very overwhelming for people who are either not familiar with the language that goes into making a change like this, or they're not comfortable with technology, any type of lack of experience, or not being familiar technology to this degree can be very intimidating. And I have to keep that in mind because of the way that they have me interacting with my coworkers when it comes to sharing information, you know, about how to move through the current process that they're in, and trying to find ways to help them become comfortable with as we move into this new phase where we will be dealing with an entirely different environment. So, you know, like I said, all of this is very exciting for me. I definitely, you know, my heart goes out to my coworkers, those who are struggling with technology in general. But that's one of the ways that you can become more familiar with technology and become more comfortable with technology is getting involved in, I think, in getting involved in social media, which is why it was easy for me to adapt to the idea of having a YouTube channel, or, you know, being on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and they have, you know, so many different platforms out there. And at one point I was so eager and anxious to learn about social media in general and how to use it to my advantage that I register for everything, even sites that, you know, I didn't know at the time, but even sites that that eventually I learned was not going to benefit me. For example, one of the social media platforms that I registered with is really for individuals who make music and or any type of digital entertainment. And I'm on YouTube, but these are more to do with artistic creativity from the perspective of original bodies of work. And I'm not doing that. I'm making, you know, YouTube videos, but I'm not like doing music videos or, you know, doing any type of animation or, you know, anything like that. And so eventually, as I learned what that particular platform was designed for, I stopped. I canceled my account. But it's just so many different forms of social media or different platforms, social media platforms out there, that you can kind of get caught up and a little overwhelmed and things like that. And it's a lot to have a Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and, you know, all these other Tumblr and stuff like that. It's a lot to keep that stuff up because you got to bounce from this place to this place to this place. And one thing that I found is that some of the social media platforms are linked together, where if you update one, you can set up your account for it to update all of them. But even with that being a feature in the social media software, it's not across the board. And then sometimes what I found is that even if you can update that information, like one social media platform through another, sometimes I didn't want that information on some of the other platforms, and because it was specifically relative to the say for example the Twitter environment or the Tumblr environment or the LinkedIn environment or whatever, and you didn't always, like, say for example the LinkedIn, that's more business driven, and you don't although they have a part of it that you can post like different things whether they're personal to you or not. One of the purposes of having a LinkedIn is to connect with people from a professional perspective, on a professional level, whether it's looking for a job or doing collaborative projects with other businesses or other individuals, you know, so you don't always want to post, you know, that your baby got an A on his report card, you know, stuff like that. So you just have to be careful, and I'm learning because I did post a few videos on my LinkedIn, and I decided to take them down because as I really analyzed what information I was sharing on my LinkedIn page, I came to the decision that was inappropriate it was inappropriate based on what I wanted to use the LinkedIn account for. So even though it was directly related to, say, my nonprofit organization, which is a business, and I'm definitely looking for opportunities to collaborate with other for-profit and nonprofit as well as individuals through my nonprofit organization, it was some of the content in the videos that is meant for my nonprofit organization that I just didn't want on my LinkedIn. So anyway, I just wanted to share this information with you all as I become knowledgeable about different things and just kind of, rediscovering who I am and learning who I am growing into, the person that I'm growing into. I want to come on and have, a very candid and open discussion with you about this journey. I will tell you, lately, it's been difficult for me to go to the gym. And this is another part of my journey that I'm going to be sharing because there are some things that I'm working on. And those things I'm really trying to push to get them completed because I want to go, if all goes well, they will free me up for me to focus more intently on things that are very important to me from a personal perspective. So anyway, I want to thank y'all for joining me on my ride home. I may kind of chime back in a little later on today. I'm not really sure, and I may actually decide to go ahead on to the gym. Not sure about that either, but right now I just have so many things spinning around in my head, and I had actually gotten to a point where I wasn't, my mind wasn't running so much, but I got some news last night that kind of put me back in the mindset of not go, just I kind of feel like I have to go back to square one with what I was trying to do. And so I have some decisions that I have to make, and those decisions will definitely impact how I spend my days, when I get off work, because they are, they revolve around some projects and stuff that I'm working on. So anyway, if I'm not gonna say do my outro or whatever. I'll just go ahead and just pause for right now, and then if I feel like I have anything else to say, I'll come back. But anyway, as you can see, I did straighten my hair, and I have just a little bit of makeup on today, so I'll see y'all later.